Alright, the Arc Raiders X account is finally active once again. It was last the 29th of June 2023 where we last had the closed alpha playtest for Arc Raiders. We had a little teaser here which we can see from the developers stating for us to tune in to the Gamescom opening night tomorrow. I will be live here on Twitch and YouTube, the links in the description, if you want to watch the announcement with me and see my latest reaction to what's going to be an awesome update on the game's development. This teaser is going to kind of be our first look at just how much Arc Raiders has evolved or developed since its initial reveal, obviously showing things like, for example, hopefully some like new gameplay mechanics, or even giving us some hints towards some new lore events in the game. So really I think the question is, what am I hoping to see tomorrow? Well, I think me and you can kind of agree that we would like to see some form of playtest announcement, or at least some hint towards when we can get our hands back on the game once again. If you guys didn't know, the closed alpha last year was actually under NDA, so we wasn't even allowed to record or take screenshots of our game's experience, and even on top of that, we're not actually allowed to talk about what we experienced during the alpha in detail. So sure, even though I can't go into specific details about how the alpha playtest went, I kind of feel like the initial experience left a strong impression with its kind of atmosphere, its environmental storytelling, and I'm kind of sort of like I'm like begging that in the Gamescom trailer or even in the potential playtest, it will kind of confirm or show me that Embark are kind of doubling down on those strengths that Arc Raiders has. So my main extraction shooter game was of course Escape from Tarkov. I think that game had such a huge staple on me and my friends back then, especially during that like kind of 2020 period of time. It was just such a good game. It has so much richness in the game, and the tech of the game is so good in terms of how much level of detail they have, like all the way down to like the water droplets on the gun when it's raining, for example, just very small things that make up for the realism of Tarkov. Then from racking up thousands of hours in Escape from Tarkov, another game that I actually really enjoyed playing was actually the Cycle Frontier. Obviously it had a couple of shaky starts in there, etc. And obviously people were like, oh, this game's gonna kill Tarkov, but for me it wasn't really specifically about what a game will kill. I kind of mainly focus on what the game is rather than its like potential of killing another game. I kind of feel like it's a weird thing that people do, especially nowadays. But for me, the Cycle Frontier was a real beautiful game. It did I say a decent job. It did a decent job with handling the PvPvE extraction genre, you know, featuring something a little bit different, which is what I liked about the Cycle Frontier. Was most extraction shooters right now, it's kind of very military, hardcore simulated themes, while the Cycle Frontier kind of stretched away from that, and instead of humans being the AI, it was actually creatures, and obviously there was some really cool creatures that you could come up against. So sure, obviously the PvE genre is kind of sounding like a bit more compelling for a wider audience, right? But again, the decision's already been made for this game to take a direction of PvPvE. While obviously some fans were pretty damn disappointed with the pivot, it's obviously clear right now that extraction shooters are kind of continuing to keep that traction gain going, right? It's the current thing right now, I think we can agree, for a lot of game developers to focus on, which is kind of why we're seeing all of these titles for extraction shooters release in such a short period of time. In my opinion, it doesn't take away from the potential of Arc Raiders, because I still think that with what Arc Raiders actually has, it's a lot more different, and it could still be the next contender in this space if everything is done correctly. And you can say to me, well THiiXY, why is this? Arc Raiders just kind of feels like it's going to be like another extraction shooter. Well, it has this unique spin away from what we're kind of seeing right now, which is, again, it's like this like real strong focus in like ultra realism, like military takes. It's like a big trending theme we have. Obviously I know that we will have other titles coming out soon as well, which is like a bit further away from that, but third person is a very unique choice. And I think that something I like about third person is the fact that you can actually make more decisions about playing certain scenarios when you're in third person, right? So for example, yeah, sure, first person, you can do like a little jiggle peek around the corner, right? But with being in a third person type of mode or a third person scenario, you can already see what's around the corner. And sure, obviously that comes with certain annoyances with PvP, for example, but I think that for yourself being in a third person mode, you'll be able to actually pick and choose your fights a lot more effectively than rather being in a first-person mode. As a PvE enjoyer myself, I actually did like hearing about the genre change for Arc Raiders, but at the same time, I do understand why people would like the focus mainly on a PvE game. We know that that genre has actually been a pretty damn big hit lately, right? Think about Helldivers 3 as an example. It's a lot more of like a chilled out, kind of relaxed environment. Another one as well, which is something that not many people are talking about, is of course the cheating, right? It's less invasive to your experience as a player for someone else going up against you as a cheater, for example. And that's actually something that I'm worried about with Arc Raiders. It's my biggest fear so far with the game. You know, we've seen those titles like the Cycle Frontier fall to a massive cheating problem, and even still to this day, Escape from Tarkov has a massive cheating problem as well, because these games with high risk, high reward is actually more beneficial to cheat on over a game like a simple PvP, right? Like a 5v5. I mean, obviously, you know, you could cheat on it to gain up ranks. It's the point of a high risk, high reward where cheating is actually even more negative against someone else. Moving on though, I do think that Arc Raiders will be one of those kind of staple games for the future to really insert itself differently in the extraction shooter genre. You know, this kind of dystopian future Earth is really sold thanks to the creativity of the developers. And I think that when I actually played back in the alpha, Arc Raiders really felt like you was experiencing like some sort of live action movie, right? Because of, you know, again, the environment, those tense moments, just everything happening around you, combined with that kind of sort of like realism feeling. I kind of think that this area will be nailed upon with full release, and if we do get a playtest, I think a lot of you guys will also feel that kind of same, like, damn, this feels like I'm actually in a movie right now, like, what the hell is going on? If I could take like one element from like any game and then like apply it to Arc Raiders, one of my favorite things about Tarkov, for example, was just kind of the depth, the item depth that you have. If you're in a raid and you're looting a cabinet, it's not always the same 10 items you find, for example. A game that I felt did poorly on it on release back at the time was, what's it called, DMZ for COD. They had like DMZ mode. Literally like day 2, the items I found got like super repetitive, and I do hope that Arc Raiders does have quite a good level of depth. I don't think the Arc Raiders would really contest Tarkov in terms of like the depth that game has, because again, if we remember, Tarkov was one of the first extraction shooters and has had a longer run of development. But I still would like to see something close to it, and I think what like I mean by that is like the rarity of items. Like, for example, Tarkov, the pinnacle of the loot is like the purple keycards, the red keycards. These are like super rare, and I think that, you know, if someone finds them, then that's like a popular clip, right, of someone getting that loot. Obviously, I wouldn't want those said items to be completely locking you out of any content in the game, but just maybe like a room or two, maybe like a small area of the map, or maybe near the end of your entire quest line, you could earn said keycard as well. But just going from keycards and keys and stuff like that, it's more than that. It's like the bullet variation in Tarkov is insane. You know, things like the weapon attachments, right, or even like some misc goofy items as well. I think that something pretty funny that Tarkov does is they have like streamer items, right, and they're like some kind of goofy items that you can find across Escape from Tarkov as well. Another thing that's also pretty damn good for a Tarkov is the extensive amount of AI loot that you can get. Like, for example, bosses have very special items of loot that you can get. Let's just take, for example, Reshala. He has the pistol, the golden pistol that Reshala has, for example, the med bag from Sanitar as well. So these are just some bosses that really have kind of that unique aspect to them, right? Again, one of the most prolific bosses, of course, probably of all time in Escape from Tarkov is Killer, right? Killer has that kind of Adidas helmet, the track suits as well, and obviously the Killer helmet itself is just worth its value of what it is. So I think that these are some really cool things that the Battlestate Games developers have done with Tarkov, and I would like to see Arc Raiders go down at least a fraction of that path. I think that this game also has the perfect setup for a story to unfold. I mean, obviously there's kind of lore questions right now. It's like, why is this dystopian Earth the future, right? How did we even get to this stage? Or even, you know, when we're in game, for example, or like we're in the environment, like what is our goal or objective overall for the Arc Raiders universe? That's just the basis of this game's stories, and I think that Embark will tell us that story over time, and really that's kind of what I think is Embark's innovation when it comes to making an extraction shooter game. Obviously, I'm excited to see what updates Arc Raiders will have on the Gamescom reveal. Don't forget as well, please let me know in the comments what you guys are looking forward to. Maybe you played in the alpha, for example, and you have some certain changes that you would like to see. Maybe there are certain aspects that you want to see in the game or you're looking forward to. Please leave your comment down below. I do try and get back to all of you as well in the comments. I like actually having the discussion on this topic. But obviously, don't forget, of course, that I will be streaming tomorrow, which is Tuesday, the 20th of August, okay? That's tomorrow for most people. I'm going to start about an hour earlier than the event actually goes live. I'll put the times on screen as well for you guys so you'll be able to see it. Until then, as Arc Raiders says, enlist and resist, and I will see you guys on the podium.